his drink of bubbly is the one and only Deven Kane. Deven is he's a writer, he's a musician, possibly a secret agent with that hat. I'm not entirely sure. Right. But I generally I haven't asked this too much since I've gone to this new forum, but I will ask it with you. If you have anything incriminating you'd like to say, make it good.
Anything incriminating?
Yeah, we're live, right? So, I mean, might as well get the good stuff going.
I need to spend more time with you to know more about you that I could incriminate you with.
Oh, okay. Well, honestly, I probably would just admit it. It's just, if it really happened, it's like.
Because you weren't seriously suggesting that I might have something.
Oh, of course you're a musician, man. You're a musician.
The paragon of sainthood. What are you talking about?
Huh? What? When?
Yeah, I'm a bass player. It's even worse than you thought. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. It's because oh man, that means you're the guy who usually knows the guy, so you actually bring all the trouble in. Usually,
usually I'm the guy helping the drummer load his gear.
Yes, usually.
Yeah, that's the unwritten code of bass playing. You will set up your gear, and you'll be done quickly. You have the smallest pedal board, one big amp. You plug it in. Oh, look, the drummer has 15,000 pieces he needs help with.
Of course he does, because he has those are important. Well, to be fair, drumming is a lot harder than it looks. It is a lot more. Yeah, it's a workout. It's elaborate. It's fun. Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, it's just a lot of fun. So it's kind of one of those things where, again, one of those things like most people don't think of the arts as physical. Then you see stuff like drumming or welding or music. Actually, in general, when you perform in front of a crowd, it is a huge bit of energy going out in and out.
Yeah. No, I mean, and especially if someone like myself. Some bass players do the kind of like the John Entwistle from the Who, where he just stood in one spot and just played and never moved. Probably because he was terrified of being clocked by Roger Daltrey's microphone or Pete Townsend on the guitar. I move all over the place. I put a lot of energy into the live show. So yeah, I come back after that and I'm exhausted. And then I have to hold my gear, which is heavy.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, nap time. Younger days, I could party. Older days, I can still party, but I need to take a nap in between rounds. That's all.
We used to joke that once you hit 40, you automatically got roadies, but unfortunately, that's just an urban myth.
Yeah, I'm about to hit 40. I should get a roadie, probably somewhere.
Carry your microphones, yeah.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, here's my mic. Carry this one too, and this one. Then one day there's just a wake up in bed, and the roadie's just beating the crap out of me. And you're like, how dare you do this to me? But it's like, yeah, it's life. I mean, when you get older, it's funny. Like for me, it's like you get to the point where you kind of want to be a lot more conservative with how you use your energy when you get older, because you realize you don't quite have. You have the tank to use it, but to refill that tank takes a lot longer than it did when you were younger.
Yeah. You can still do everything you did, but it takes more out of you and takes longer to recover from it.
Yeah. It's like
my mother-in-law is famous for saying that she's in her early 80s, and she'll say, I feel like I'm 35, except everything hurts.
Yes.
Because it's all, mentally, you don't consider yourself as being old, no matter what your age is. You get older a day at a time. So you wake up in the morning and all the things you want to do are probably the same things you wanted to do yesterday and the day before and the day before. But then at the end of the day, as you say, you realize you're a little more worn out than you were 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Well, I'm probably actually a little stronger than I was in my 20s, physically, but I don't have the stamina I did when I was younger. Right. Okay. There was a trade-off. I can lift the house now, but I also need to nap more. So
when napping becomes something you look forward to.
Nap rule.
You cross the threshold.
I seriously think we adults screwed up. We really should have kept recess and then naps. All right, recess would do everybody a lot of good right now. I think it would do everybody so much good right now. It would be the equivalent of just a pressure valve, and I think a lot of people have right now need some pressure release, and I can sense it pretty much with everybody. So next year will be interesting because I think if there's no pressure valve release, the pressure's coming. The dam will burst sooner or later.
That's just it. So we kind of need to be proactively upping our self-care so that we don't contribute to that melt down. Because you're right, it could become quite. It's already. I mean, you had that video that was in I think Dawson City, where some Walmart employee asked somebody to put a mask on. The guy jumped on him and just started beating on him like that. That's
because I just
that's a guy who needs more juice boxes, obviously.
Well, the resentment's growing. You can sense it, and the fact of the matter is, I can't blame anybody. My position on this has been this: the virus is something that needs to be taken seriously. Cool. Unfortunately, our leadership, doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, has no integrity, which creates a very interesting conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving power to people that honestly aren't worth our trust. And what do people with power generally want? More power. Mm-hmm. So you have that, and every time you see a real knock to their credibility, which I think the biggest thing is kids going to school, right? You start to question everything. And if you let it, the resentment just starts to seep in. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, for most, I don't know about what your area of the woods, but it seems like generally speaking, we're only being allowed to go outside just simply because we have to work. And
and it seems like there's an uneven playing field of what is essential work that people can go to and fill the room up, and what's unessential that would be just recreational and therefore therapeutic.
And that's what ultimately comes back to what I said: credibility. There's none. And so what's happening now is everything is slowly building to a crescendo. There's going to come a point where people are just going to say fuck it, and it's starting to happen in little pieces. Yeah. Right. But inevitably, what's going to eventually happen is if this stays this way for too much longer, there might be actual legitimate riots. And you can't people, this is not how we're supposed to live. And we're beginning to see, I think, the breaking down of we can't do this for another year. We got at most.
I agree that I mean, a friend of mine used to always use an analogy that said everybody has this, a tank that you can fill with stress. And if your tank is always right about this full, more things can happen to you and you're not going to have a blowout. So, but if you always run your tank right up at the rim, one last little thing, boom.
That's it. And
so that's why I'm aware that, I agree with you 100%. We are building this stress case up right now, and so for me, as a writer, but I think as a husband, as a father, as a friend, I'm having to see how can I self-care myself where my stress level is somewhere down here, so that as things continue to ramp up society-wise, I'm not one of the people overflowing and having a meltdown or freak out.
Well, for me, the answer has been really simple, except that I can't control. It's been that simple. There are things I'm worried about coming down the pike, possibly as a result of this. I think, like I said, going back to the credibility thing, that's in the back of my mind at all times. But that all said, I also recognize for the fact that for this moment, we're all here. So, okay, what can I do? I can create stuff. I did this wonderful show as a result of me doing my thing. I've been slowly building myself, like you said, building this up, getting this started, and I decided basically to change my life anyways this year. This year was always going to be a struggle year for me, no matter what happened. But at the same token, for me, it's like, okay, I can be creative, I can be supportive, generally speaking, to people, and I can do my thing. Date would be nice, but besides that, I can't really complain about too much else, in my life right now. So that's it. You learn that Zen of, I'm going to accept what I can control. This will not last forever, right? This will.
It just feels like it.
Well, we're in the middle. We're at that point in the journey where we're in the sea. There's darkness completely around us, and we can't tell where the shoreline is, right? And that's where we're at. It doesn't mean we're not moving towards it. We are, but it's a very, very, very slow This winter time is going to suck. Like this month, coming up is going to be the worst month of them all. After this month, it will get easier again a little bit, but once we get to, but like I said, once we get to spring, we've done this for a year, and I think the honest thing is, the honest thing is we've come to this point now where, okay, we gotta do something different. And but until then, what can I control? What can I do? And not worry about the rest of it. It's bigger than me, and I accept that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I spent, yeah, I agree. And I mean, for analogy, I mean, I spent a number of years living in Tijuana, Mexico, working with a nonprofit, building houses.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we had to get used to every weekend, you had a different, like a football team or a college group or a church group or a high school would send students down or whatever to build houses in the colonia. So we would help, we would get the pad poured for them. We would guide them in building a house for a needy family over a weekend, which was great. I mean, it was so rewarding for a lot of people. But the last day was always the same. You hand the keys to the family, they're excited, everyone cries. It's a wonderful opportunity to just, be a blessing to somebody else. And then you got to get back in those big 15-passenger vans and cross the border to San Diego to catch their flight back home. And that border wait on a Sunday afternoon is like 2.5, 3 hours to travel 5 miles.
Yep.
And I watched some of my friends who are also driving, and they're great people. They're also, working their tails off in Mexico to help the poor. And just watch them absolutely lose their minds and line up and screaming and swearing at other drivers and stuff. And everyone behind them, the van's kind of like, and I just learned you got to zen out. You're not going to get through the border any faster by freaking out and screaming at anybody. Just relax and just know this won't last forever. And in a small way, that's kind of been a bit of a training ground almost for what's happened with COVID. It's like you can't, like you say, you can't control it. You can't alter the outcome by freaking out or whatever. So you just have to kind of just learn to make peace with the process and just let it play its way out, and try not to lose yourself, your humanity in the middle of it.
Well, like I said, I mean, if you need a moment to scream. I mean, that's fine. Like, find that moment where you can just go, but just recognize the fact too that it's okay to feel what you're going to feel. Do what you're going to do. But
don't do your screaming at a clerk in a Walmart.
No,
just doing the job. Find an appropriate place to let the steam off.
I've seen that go both ways. Like I remember like the one I think the thing about this. So there's Tim Hortons I go to. I get my coffee here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a gentleman came in, right? A gentleman came in and he didn't have a mask, but he just needed to use the bathroom. Like he just all he wanted to do was use the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 3-minute fight, but they finally let him just do it. Honestly, it just would have been easy. He came out. He wanted to get served. He asked if he could be served something, and they wouldn't serve him. Which, okay, that's fine. That's their prerogative to do. But then okay, he reacted, but then they started to mock him, right? And I'm like, okay, this is going. That I think again, I get it. Like, look, there's no good answer here. You people are gonna have to do what they got to do, and kindness is one thing. Other hand, too, I mean, and we're all venting in different ways, but I've definitely seen it where customers have definitely snapped at employees. They probably should be paid way more money to be out there right now. Definitely. But I've also seen the mock. Like people are all reacting to the stimuli in different ways. And I think for me, I just see it like this has been one of the cruelest times I've ever seen in my life. Like I think for me, that's the part that hit me the hardest is I've watched the abject cruelty from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you because I don't know what you have. I can't do this because, and it's bad enough we're not in contact, we're not handshaking, high five, hugging, laughing, crying, all that stuff we normally do together. That's bad enough. But then it's just the the coldness. I remember, like for me, I made a decision about this for myself when I was in Vancouver. I was still in Vancouver. I had to, right when this was going on, like when this started, I was still taking buses. I take a bus and 2 trains to go to work. And if I had, and ladies and gentlemen, if I had stayed in Vancouver, I would have been an essential worker. That would have been my trip every day, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vancouver has a very large homeless population, as anyone that's been there will tell you. And I remember one night I was going home from work, coming home. The homeless guy, it's like, hey, dude, you got like a pencil? He just wanted to draw something. He had like a notepad. He just wanted to draw. I was like, yeah, I would look in my box. And I had to make a decision right there and then. There's no good answer here. If I say I'm going to put myself at risk no matter what I do. But I won't lose my humanity. That was the decision I kind of made at that moment in time. Like, no matter who's in front of me, what they believe, what they think, how they think, I'm not going to treat them any differently as a virus. I'm not going to treat them as less than human because the virus is there. And if that means I'm putting myself at risk sometimes, so be it. I cannot. Does that make sense?
Like, yeah, no, and again, everyone, like you say, everyone's got to figure out what does it mean to remain a decent human person, as we understand that, in the midst of a crisis, that situation it's a slow boil and it's a long-term boil. That's what makes it really tough, is that it's just dragging on and on and on. I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to look up historically, where I can find it, what was the effect of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic? How did people deal with a very similar situation where places were shut down, there were mask mandates, churches couldn't gather, how did people deal with that in a way that was healthy?
They didn't lock down quite the same way. What we're doing here is different in one sense. To the scale we're doing what we're doing, I don't think has ever been done. Right? Okay. Don't get me wrong, people were still like distancing themselves. They were still wearing masks. But people were going to ball games in masks, right? They didn't let their kids go to school during a pandemic. That's also another major difference as well. There was some things were very similar. Some things were very different. But for me, I look at what we've done, what the United States did in the pandemics in the 60s and the 80s, right? The AIDS pandemic was ignored. And they did Woodstock during the flu pandemic in the 60s. This is closer to what was tried in the 70s when Ford was president. This is a lot closer. And I don't know. Like I said, I think 5 years from now, when we're through this, one way or the other, however this goes through, we're going to look back, and I think we're going to say, we're going to never do it quite this way again. I think what's going to happen is we're going to be like, okay, next time, like I look at what Japan's done, not New Zealand, not Sweden, Japan. Japan basically did this. Okay, here's money, stay home. That's what they did. They didn't we'll shut everything else down. They have been one of the healthiest places on the planet, but they've also haven't had the most severe, partly because they've been through pandemics already, so they have their own system for it. But they were doing live events and amusement park stuff before almost anybody else did. They had some of their own interesting things, like no screaming. Right, they had some of their own laws that are interesting and different, and culturally there are different people for this. But I look at what Japan did, and versus what everybody else has done, and I feel they're the median. They're the median that kind of seemed to work, and I kind of wish we had done that instead of. Also, their leadership was consistent.
Well, and again, very different culture.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of Japanese friends here in Kelowna. I should ask them, what their take on, what are their relatives are.
Yeah, no, they're like Japan didn't do. I mean, they did their own forms of lockdown, but they weren't like ours. They did their own stuff. Like I said, but they have also had the benefit of going through a pandemic process already. So I mean, it would not shock me, honestly. Japan was one of the first nations to declare the full state of emergency in the world. They're probably going to be the first country or one of the first countries to declare that the pandemic is over. They'll throw they are probably going to be, if not one, probably two or three. And I look at that. That's how I kind of see it. Like I look at what they've done, and I'm like, that makes sense. I hope we more go in that direction than the United States' direction. Unfortunately, like I said, consistent leadership, and that's ultimately what I'm going to say. Like up and down, that's the part that's going to undo us. I think more than anything else. Mm-hmm. That's me. That's my take. Maybe I don't know. I'm a schmuck. So
you're a very well educated schmuck.
Yeah, sometimes.
I mean, you do your homework, and I know that about you. And
yeah.
That's part of what I think is we struggle with, because there's a lot of uninformed conjecture and opinions, and of course, in the conspiracy theories, which both sides of the extremes think the other side is believing conspiracy theories, and having a dialogue in the middle is also possible.
I look
it just complicates everything.
I honestly think our problem on that one, to be perfectly blunt, is the media. Mm-hmm. That's what creates. So okay, so okay, so are you a religious man? I'm gonna ask this.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I am. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Depending. Yeah. Everyone's got their definitions, right?
No. Everybody does. We'll try to end the COVID talk in about another 8 minutes, because I'd rather get to other interesting things.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're all tired of talking about this yet.
Yeah. But this is the thing about the narrative going on that really, for me, I've heard this before, and this is kind of why I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm willing to, I really to acknowledge that the virus is a serious thing. Mm-hmm. However, I don't trust the government, and here's why. Here's the narrative that we have been presented for the last year. Very much in the old days, cults would go around, and they would tell people that they had evil inside them, and that the only way out was through going through this process. Look, today, look at how the virus is done in the narrative. Now we have evil inside us. We have this unknown, unfathomable thing that mysteriously soap and water works on, right? But essentially, if you listen to the narrative, we all have evil inside us. We can't go near each other because we might spread whatever we have. Basically, the very quiet subtext of the story being told is, we have evil inside us again. And this is the narrative that I've heard. And it's like, I know this story. I've heard this before. Where have I heard this before? Oh my God, right? And it's like, and now I'm being presented this solution so that you will be safe. And then when I hear things like I'm doing things not just for myself but for my community in context with that narrative, it's like, I've heard this before. I've heard this before. Now again, that's me. That's how I see it. Now I could be totally. I'm going to reiterate this very, 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 very thing. I'm not saying the virus isn't serious. What I am saying is the whole narrative we have presented about this virus isn't necessarily. It's closer to SARS or MERS. Still serious, still dangerous, but not. Most of us will walk away from it, right? So it's not the 1918 flu where people are literally dropping dead in the middle of the street. So when I hear like we have this evil inside us and it's this mysterious thing in this context, like I've heard this narrative before, right? Praise the essential workers. Praise our police and firemen from 9/11. I've heard that narrative before too. You start hearing all these narratives I've heard before, and I'm thinking, this story is a construction of other stories I've heard before that I've been heard in my media for the last 20, 30, and even the expert thing. Listen to your experts. That came about in 1965, way back in the day. and we've had nothing but experts go on our news and tell us about how things are, and it's almost like I'm hearing the same thing over and over and over and over again. So now I'm a suspicious bastard when I hear the same story over and over and over and over again.
You don't like reruns.
I don't trust reruns, right? I don't trust them
because you've never watched Gilligan's Island in years. Because
yeah, exactly. No, but that's see, to me, that's what I hear, right? So when I hear that stuff, I tend to go, the solution's simple. Shut the media down.
Well, but media, I mean, like you say, it's a narrative, it's a storytelling.
Yeah.
And in any good story, any dramatic story, any good song, especially like a folk song or a stories-based song, you've got your protagonist, you got your antagonist, and you got your crisis, and you got your solution. And that's the essence of story.
Absolutely.
And so right now we have a virus, and there are competing stories.
Yes.
And they all have their own pet antagonists and their own pet protagonists. And then it gets really dicey because, like I say, everyone is convinced that their particular
narrative
tribe,
is correct. Yeah.
Their tribe is on the inside. Everybody else is dumb.
Well, here's the conspiracy narrative that it's a big bad government plot. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the one thing about that. The only thing about that is when I look at the whole, you shouldn't trust the people in charge and they are accumulating power. This is true. But everything else, I don't know. I have a really hard time thinking that there's going to be a massive power outage on December 2nd. I have a really hard time buying the fact that maybe, just maybe, that there's going to be this massive plan to put everybody into massive debt and they'll be held hostage. We'll forgive you the debt if you all take the shot. I don't think that's how that's going to play out. Now, I could be on drugs. It's possible. If so, let me know what they are, because I don't know what they are myself.
You either up your dosage or lower it.
Yeah, depending on the situation, right? But that doesn't. But so like I said, going back to where I was, ultimately where I was, I understand why everybody has a story. It's easier to blame somebody that acknowledge that sometimes bad things just happen in the world. Mm-hmm. It's easier.
Everyone wants a scapegoat.
Yeah, well, it's easy. It's an easier world to live in, right? Mm-hmm. On the flip side, this is always a time when people with power take advantage of people that don't. Mm-hmm. And that is happening right now too. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen next year when this is over, because I do think it may not be over, but I think this phase of it is going to have to come to an end somehow, some way next year. I just based on what I'm seeing. Like I said, I think everybody's been cooped up for too long, and I think everybody's going to. I think again that the cup is near the top. I think for a lot of people. So anyway, I've done my part of it. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up and go on something?
I've got friends all across the spectrum of opinions of what this really is all about. So I'm kind of encouraged that I have such a wide range of friends. And also a little thankful for the snooze function on
Facebook.
Oh
God, yeah.
Not because I don't want to hear people's opinions, but just because part of my self-care, of my stress level, means not always exposing myself to yet another, fight over conspiracy theory. For me, the big thing right now is like, you know what? Wearing a mask is not like, you're not being asked to give, my eye teeth to the government. I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah.
For years, we've lived under no shoes, no shirt, no service. We're just no shoes, no shirt, no mask, no service. It's not that big of a deal. If that's all that's the major inconvenience we're facing, then fine. I can deal with that, because I have friends who are immunocompromised. A friend of mine and her husband both had COVID recently here in Kelowna a few months back. They've recovered, but she's had ongoing heart problems ever since. that they are saying is been exacerbated by COVID. So she's not dying from COVID or dying even from her heart problems, but her health has been perhaps permanently reduced.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? I love my friends. I don't want to see them getting sick.
Absolutely.
I'll wear a mask. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know?
Fair enough.
I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, it's like being stuck in rush hour. This too will pass.
Yes, absolutely.
You know? And I think I've seen enough good things that people have done. I've seen enough like selfless like neighbors helping each other out.
That's awesome.
That is sort of like, yeah, there are strange things happening. There are disturbing things happening. Do we trust the government? We should never completely trust the government. Don't be paranoid either, but don't be gullible. But just there's enough good things I see happening, and I think a vaccine is just around the corner, according to all reports. So I agree with you. I think by spring, if the vaccines can start rolling out, I mean, everyone when spring comes, when the weather gets warmer, the sun starts shining, and we're not shoveling our driveway every other day, we all feel this sort of like hope and spring, and life springs eternal. It's, you know, the flowers came back again.
Oh, lifelong impossibilities, man. I mean,
yeah, I'm hopeful that by the time spring comes around with the vaccine, and again, just the change in weather, which is always a lift. But then if all of a sudden, you know, we have vaccines that allow us to do more of the things or begin to do more of the things we used to do and increasingly more often, I think 2021 could be a good recovery year. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, and it might not be healthy if it did. But as long as I feel like there's a progression, you know, vaccines, loosening restrictions, you know, I have hope for the future that way. I'm not pessimistic that way. I'm like anybody. I'm a musician. I haven't played a gig in a long, long time. And aside from that being part of the way I make a living, I love being out performing. It's part of what gives me energy. It's part of what makes me feel fulfilled. I love going to my writers group and sharing what I've just worked on, and they share what they worked on, or we critique and encourage each other. We do that a bit over Zoom right now, as you know, and that's better than nothing. But it's not the same.
Oh no,
as an extrovert, I want to be with people. My typical writing thing is I'll spend a day or two every week in a coffee shop writing, because just the ambient noise of people around energizes me, and then I write. Well, this past year, I've got a whole list on my browser now of playlists, and some of them are songs, instrumental songs, so I can write without being confused by words. A number of them are soundtracks of varying moods and stuff. And I have a bunch that are literally just like, one's called a European market. And it's just somebody's like a microphone in a European market, and you're hearing random conversations and chairs being moved and dishes clattering and stuff. And it sounds like I'm in a coffee shop. And I'll put that on to kind of give me the illusion that I'm not trapped in my basement writing. So I'm trying to find creative ways around it. But I do have hope that in the next few months, and especially when spring starts to come, and I'm old enough now that, a few months till spring doesn't seem like a long time. It seems like forever when you're in grade 4.
Oh, it kind of feels like forever. Even it's going to feel kind of forever, like even now. I think this December is going to be tough. I think after December, I think it'll get a little easier. But I think December is going to be really tough. But anyway, let's table COVID. I by the way, thanks for being my therapist. But oh shit, I forgot to do something here.
No, we all hold each other up right now.
Yeah, I know. Hold on a sec here. I forgot to do something very, very important. Oh well, it's done now.
Now the cameras are on?
No, no. I do audio recordings of the podcast still, right? I still do an audio recording. I forgot to put the audio recording on, so it's okay. That'll be just a bonus for the live stream, and then this can be just whatever.
We'll just say, hey, you know what? We're all tired of hearing about COVID, so we just edited it out.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. So if you guys want to hear the COVID talk, watch my Twitch. Otherwise, don't worry about it. We're all generally just tired of this shit. That's just the way. That's basically what we came down to.
We're all waiting for spring.
Yeah, pretty much. We're waiting for this because it's like
literally and metaphorically.
Yes. But I do know what I'm going to do next year. No matter what happens, I'm going to start traveling again. I just this was good. I've been good. I have a date in my head. I have a date in my head. I'm going to be going at this probably until March 21st, 2021. I have been a freelancer for a year, and at that
That's
point,
the anniversary.
yeah, it'll be 1 year anniversary of it, and then we're going to see where we're at.
First place you're going to go.
I haven't decided. It's either going to be no. There's 3 places. I have 3 places in my head.
Okay, where are they?
Kelowna. I'm being guy. Kelowna. I might come see you all. You guys.
Hey, you are welcome. You are welcome. We had a great time with you last time you were here.
Yeah, no. Rachel wants me to move there. The worst places to be. They really are. Everybody has different opinions about it, but the truth of the matter is, like Vancouver, I think is a city I enjoy visiting more than living in. That's just basically what I came to the conclusion of when I was there. Now, to be fair to Vancouver, I never quite got to really enjoy it as much as I could have, because unfortunately, right when I just was ready to walk away from what I was doing, this all happened. Yeah, and so I don't feel I gave Vancouver a fully fair shake, but the impression I generally got about the city was it's got a very strange. It does have its own vibe. It's really unique. It's a bit strange to me, but on the same token, I mean, it's a beautiful place. Like that, I will give it. It was a beautiful place, and maybe at another point in my life, I'll give it another shot. Maybe. I don't feel bad being in Ontario, living here right for the time being. I mean, so the second place I considered going that I'd go would be I haven't really seen much of Eastern Ontario past Peterborough, so see the rest. So see there. I would love to go to Montreal. I was Sylvain Nouvelle a drink, and so I met him in Ottawa. He got to watch me karaoke, and I said I'm sorry to everybody because I was terrible. I lost the ability. I used to be able to do a song. I can't even remember this. I was from Aerosmith's 9 Lives album. I actually was able to karaoke it about 10 years ago.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, well, no, I don't actually. It was just the one song. It's the one song I could hit. I completely lost the song. By the time, like 10 years later, I go to sing it. It's like. Mm-hmm. So I put a tweet on Facebook for my Aerosmith fans out there. I'm so sorry, right? Because what happened there is I blew the song. I didn't do an easy one.
This would be like a redemption tour then.
Yeah, this would be a redemption tour, possibly. Possibly. We'll see how that goes. But the whole idea of it is basically to how to say, like, that'd be cool. I've always wanted to see Montreal. Montreal's the only big city I have not been in Canada. I left this last one. I really want to see it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really have a desire to see Quebec City. And as far as the Maritimes goes, St. John sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. But again, same thing. A place to visit, not actually, like Montreal sounds like it'd be a different place, and it'd be kind of cool. Finally, at some point, I have to go back to Calgary. My stuff's still there.
Your stuff's still there?
Yeah, my stuff's still there. Yeah. Well, the whole plan was storage locker, but I had it in a storage locker, and it's been there for over a year now. Sometime next year, I'm going to go pick the stuff up. Like my goal this year was I was going to try to be a freelancer. Can I make a living doing this? The answer so far is no. However, I have made thousands, which is something apparently a lot of people don't do on their first year. So
that's promising then.
Yeah, it's something I can do. I figured out the business end of it, the financial end of it it's about passive income. It sounds really fucking simple when you get right down to it. It's about your passive income. It's about finding your niche, and it's just about doing it. I think the hardest thing for me about the first 7, I'm going into month 8 about this at this point, was just simply because I was dumb. It's like I had to find my niche. I had to find my niche. What do? I interview people. That's my niche. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But how many have you done now?
What? Oh, this is episode 456.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
The whole 10,000 hours thing is legit. You're well on your way.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That's not including like prior to the podcast, all the interviews I've done then too. Like it comes to interviewing, it's like that's my niche. Why not just roll with it and kind of see? And I think the best advice I've gotten doing this freelancing thing, an ex-girlfriend, someone I still am very good friends with, she goes to me, you got to do what you got to do out of love. Don't ever pick a hollow path. If you do, it might work for a while, but you'll end up resenting it. And no, it's funny. I was there for her years back, and this year she's been there for me quite a bit. And it was great advice. And honestly, Susie Vidori kind of echoed that advice in her own way. So
Susie's awesome. She's awesome.
Susie's amazing. I think Susie. I honestly, out of the Calgary bunch, she's the one that's really good. I think if my money was on just one person there, it would be her, because she wants it more than I think anybody else there does. Based on what I've seen, again, I've had a chance to work with some people in Calgary, the Calgary crew a little bit this year, outside as an outsider for the first time ever, and the impression. And again, you can still see Susie was easily my favorite person to work with. She was so fun. She was very energetic. She wanted it, and that made it so easy to work with. Other people were struggled more. Either their priorities weren't completely aligned with what they were doing, or they weren't sure what they wanted.
Were they just like scattered in various directions, or
yeah? So one individual, I was going to do a campaign with, but I never got, like, I would ask for information that I never got. So it came to a point that I realized that I couldn't help that person, not the way they needed me to help them. And I had to let them go. And I felt bad about it, but I couldn't, like, they just weren't ready to give me, if they had given me everything I asked for without question or without hesitation, it would have been very easy for me just to follow through. Or because I wanted to follow through. But the fact that I wasn't getting that information when I asked for that information, I couldn't do what the real goal was. Like, why they had a fan base. They didn't need me to reach their own fan base. They wanted me to reach other fan bases. But if I don't have the information, I can't do that. So why am I here?
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, my son does web design for a lot of different companies, and his biggest frustration is some of them expect him to kind of psychically intuit what their business is all about, what their goals and values are, and put on the website. And he's saying, I'll put up whatever content you give me. I can help tweak it and massage it, but I can't create what your vision and values are. You have to go with that, and that's where I step in. So I don't know if that is a across the board analogy that works.
No. So I have what I call there are 4 reasons I fire people. Or let them go. It's true.
Like, fired enough people, you have a system.
What?
You fired enough people, you have a system.
Oh yeah, no, I do. So here's
I'm going to be very nice to you from now on, of course.
Yeah. Rule 1: don't listen to what I'm telling you. Why am I here? If you're not, you don't have to take my advice verbatim. But if I'm giving you this advice, it's for a reason. You're not giving me information. You're not giving me the information I request. I can't do my job. You're mentally unstable. That one's a lot trickier to figure out right away,
especially during COVID.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's
a little bit unstable.
Yeah, well, that's to say, like, during this time, especially, you have a tendency to lean on. This is where I'm an asshole. I'm going to be the person. I'm going to admit this. All right. I'm ruthless with my time. I mean, and that will not change no matter what. So I get you're having a breakdown, but I only have so much time to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's now if you want me to just be your friend, that's completely different. But if we're doing business together,
there's got to be a consistency of expectation and productivity. That what I'm expecting is what you can give, and vice versa.
Oh, absolutely no. That you can fire my ass for the same reason. Like that one's like everything. The first two are specifically for me to do my job. Mm-hmm. The third one and the fourth one, you're just not ready. That's actually the most forgivable of all of them, because you might not be able to financially afford me. You might not be able to. I charge an arm and a leg to do audiobooks for people. The reason why I charge an arm and a leg to do audiobooks for people is because I don't want people that aren't serious about it. Mm-hmm. I had someone come up to me, do you do discount? No. Mm-hmm. I learned something I learned. I
liked you on Facebook. Can I get a deal?
Oh, God, I have it. When I start to announce that I do audiobooks, man, holy shit. I got a couple people to come up. One person was very serious, and I was very upfront that because they were my first client, right? They were my first client that I didn't completely know what I was doing, and so I charged them less than I wouldn't have charged them otherwise. Mm-hmm. But they were also willing to be patient with me, so I felt it was kind of like they were still paying me a decent enough wage to get educated doing this. I wouldn't do it for that little money again. Mm-hmm. And I didn't charge them a small amount either, but I didn't charge them what it's actually worth. Right. So mm-hmm. I know
my wife's a photographer. We've had this same conversation more than once too. And it's tougher because she wants to be, she likes people. She wants to help people, but at the same time, it's a business.
Well, it's not even
professional. That's why they're coming to her, because she's really good at what she does.
Well, yeah, but it's not even that. Here's the other thing I learned this year. Your price tag, whatever that price tag is, people respect you according to that price tag. That's just the way it is. I've learned. It's like if I charge nothing, you're going to treat me like I'm nothing. Mm-hmm. If I charge through the moon, well, I don't know if I can afford that, but suddenly the respect is there immediately.
Well, people pay for what they value. That's just reality. And if they don't, if you give them stuff for too little, they will drag the most out of you for the least amount possible, and you'll end up feeling used and abused, and still having trouble paying your bills. And they'll walk away still complaining because they're in it for the cheap, not for the quality. People that will pay your rate are people who recognize the talent and go, I'm willing to pay for that because it's worth having. And they will, and the whole process is more respectful because they are expecting professional response from you. Yeah, and they treat you like professional, and that feels a lot better.
Oh, no, the whole point of being a freelancer is not to resent your job. I'm trying not to work for people because, well, I'm doing temp work right now because it's Christmas, right? For a little extra cash. I'm treating it like a temp job. I'm not treating it like my job. Like when I stay.
That's how you feed your addiction.
What?
That's how you're feeding your addiction.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Well, that's. I'm in a good position where I don't have to really worry about rent right now because I'm house sitting. Like my house sitting expires in March too. Just in my head, that's how long.
You got like two things lining up saying this is the end of the era. The 1 year anniversary.
Yeah. No, that's it. No, I gave myself a deadline on purpose, right? This is why.
So we'll see you in Kelowna in April then.
What?
We'll see you in Kelowna in April then.
Yeah, probably. It's possible. It's always possible. So I learned this very importantly. Like a friend of mine, a long time ago, a former friend of mine, said to me, "How much does it cost you to do a job and not resent it?" And if it's in your head,
that's right?
It's a really good question, and every time now there was one individual that wanted me to donate to work a specific episode to their agency. My experience with that individual personally is great. Professionally, it was very passive aggressive. I hate that. Like that, I do. So in my head, I thought about what would likely happen. Right, I knew this was worth something. I talked to some people I really trusted about what do you think this would be worth actually. And then I added the resentment tax and I doubled it. And that's the offer I gave them.
You know the resentment tax?
Yeah, the resentment tax. But I'm gonna because
I'm going to use that. That's good. That's good.
No, it's true. It's like you have to be very honest about. I have interviewed people for hundreds of hours. I use my voice. People recognize across the world, not just in Canada and the United States, across the world. It's worth something.
Mm-hmm.
If you're coming on my platform and you want to use it for your own game, that's awesome. I love having guests. I love hearing your stories, and we got to get a little bit more into you at some point here. Some point into this stream, we'll get there.
Well, this is how we always talk, though.
Yeah, exactly. No, no, exactly.
It feels pretty normal. Just as a camera on this time.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like doing it like this. But the thing about that is, right? People know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to come on my platform, you're going to pay for it. Now, if I've already have an experience with you, that indicates to me that you're very likely either A, don't really respect the value of it, or B, there's again, passive is my personal pet peeve. I hate it, but it's my pet peeve, right? It's not a deal breaker. I just will charge you more for it, right? Deal breaker, right? That's all right, right? That because if I got to put up with it. And again, maybe I'm just an asshole, but I'm just being very honest about like I've made the decision in my life that I want people who are authentic, who are direct, who care, who want to be there, and who are ready to be there. Mm-hmm. And if there are none of those things, I don't want to be.
It's nothing personal. If this is not a fit at this point in time, that could change.
Yeah, exactly.
But at this point in time, there's not a fit.
Yeah. So quality number 4. Are they ready or are you ready? And like I said, consequently, in those 4 things, mental instability and are you ready does apply to me as well for my client. They can, if I don't fill their requirements, they can fire my ass. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, the basic reason a freelancer gets fired is because they don't do what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. The quality and the timeliness is not there.
Yeah. Well, so what am I like? I'm providing a service. And I'm offering a convenience of time and talent and expertise. Mm-hmm. That's what a freelancer is essentially doing, whatever that expertise is. So what are my expertises? I can write stuff, right? I do great interviews. I can do sound stuff because I got a lot of experience in all of those things. So, ergo, those are the things I can charge. And I can do lots of convenient things for that. And I can help you build an audience too, because I have some experience doing that. So those are my expertises. And that's what I can offer anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm charging you for those things because if I don't, you're going to not take them seriously. And if you're not going to take me seriously, I'm going to resent you. And so that's just not well,
especially if it's somebody you know, it can really put a damper on their friendship, and nobody wants that.
No, and that's the unfortunate thing. Like I said, the individual I had to let go. That was a friend, and I really hated that. But it was just I didn't. It was the only way I could. It was the only way I could. It was the only way I could do right by them. Honestly, and that's a very tough thing to do, to acknowledge about them is, yeah, you just realize like it's just not going to work in this regard, and it sucks, but you gotta let it go, or
So have you found some obviously one script doesn't fit all people, but have you found in general some ways that how to have that conversation that lets them down without crushing them?
Yeah,
that's still a work in progress.
No, so when I originally gave my resignation, I took the blame. And my sister read what I sent that individual, and she said, no, Asa, you should probably tell them what they did wrong. You should have. So if I were to do it all over again, this is the only thing I would do differently, honestly, is I would explain my concerns very clearly, first off, right? Second, still offer some solutions for them to make their do the best I can to still help them, and then ultimately still say the same thing at the very end. I find I shouldn't have been quite so quick just to put all the blame on myself. That's the one thing I kind of wish I had done a little differently. I think, again, if I were to do it again, it'd been like, I have to let you go. Here's why. This is right. And this part is going to sound really painful, and I'm sorry, but I have to tell you. This is what I think you need to do. I wish you luck. If you change these things and want to work with me again down the road, great. But on the flip side, if there's anything you feel I didn't do for you, let me know. And that would have been the difference, I think. But that was the lesson I learned when I let them go, is that next time I have to let a client go, I'm going to be very upfront as to why I feel they should be let go. But I'm also going to be, how do I put this? I'm also going to be as helpful as I can. And they still might resent me for it when it's over. But at the very,
that's in your control.
No, it's not. I can't. No, I don't. It's not my concern. Again, my job is to do the best I can for whoever I'm working for. That's my job. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to put my heart and soul into. I'm going to do the best I can to do the job required in front of me. If it's a job I agree to do, I will do it. Doesn't mean I'm good, but it doesn't mean I'm going to let you walk on me either. It means that I'm going to. This is it. This is how I'm going to be. If you don't like it, let's shake hands and walk away before anything does happen. And also, I mean, there's also, and I really hate saying this word because it's actually a bit of a trigger for me. There's a reputation thing you got to consider too.
It's a real thing.
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
I hate that word because honestly, if you say it too often, it means nothing, right? Right, it means nothing. But I don't mind failing on something if everything's there, and I do everything in my effort to do the job required of me, and it still doesn't work out. I can live with that. It hurts, but I can live with that. At least I can say I did everything I knew how to do, right? But if I fail because I didn't have the information I needed, I didn't do the due diligence I was supposed to do, I failed just because I failed, right? I failed to help myself. Instead of like, I did everything I knew how to do and failed, that's one thing. I failed to help myself, therefore I guaranteed myself a failure. That's what I want to avoid. Because the first one you can recover from, right? The first one you can recover from. Sometimes things just don't work out. Do a Kickstarter campaign with your book. Say the goal was $1,200, you got to $1,150, and you did everything you knew how to do. Well done. You tried. That's all you can say, right? Right. But let's say same campaign, you did $1,150, but you didn't tell anybody about the project, or you didn't tell enough people. You didn't advertise. You didn't show the commitment to your work that you needed to. Well, that's different now, isn't it? Now you sabotaged yourself. And let's say you were that close, or let's say you just hit your goal. You just hit your goal. You just broke over the hump, but you didn't do everything you were supposed to do. Well, shit, you could have made more money. You left money on the table.
Or were you just giving your chance and giving yourself an excuse to fail?
Yeah,
because you're more afraid of success than you are of failure.
It happened I find that's a very common thing than a lot of creative people want to admit. When the Aurora, when I was nominated, that was the first time I dealt with my own imposter syndrome.
Anybody who's nominated, I hope they go through that. It shows you're human still.
No, it does. And I realized, so my solution was, this is my solution internally in my head. Okay, how did I get here? what do I do well? What's my weaknesses?
Mm.
Try to avoid doing those things as much as you can. Try to do the things that brought you here.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of my own damn way, right?
Yeah. No, I just as I was listening to you talk about the reasons you would fire somebody and the ways that people can actually self-sabotage preemptively their success, and then you have to kind of fire them because they're just not ready. But I also know you enough the last couple of years that you go out of your way to encourage people and try and pump people up.
Absolutely.
As you can. And it reminded me that my very, very first rejection letter from a publisher. I wish I'd kept it, but it was photographed crooked and stuff. But I was so discouraged. And even though the guy was really gracious and said, your writing shows promise, but you got a long ways to go. And, he was encouraging. He encouraged me to keep writing and just to continue to pursue it and to, send my stuff to a wide range of publishers, not just the one and put all my eggs in that one basket. What he could have said, it would have been true, is, dude, you're 13 years old. You're not ready. And I was 13 years old and I was writing crap, but it was the best crap I could write at 13. But I got that rejection letter and all the good things he said, which were very much the kind of things you would say to try and encourage someone to press on, even though they are clearly not ready. I just took that inside and went, all I heard was not good enough. And I put it all aside for a long time. Because that's why I was asking you, because I know your goal as a person is to encourage people and to motivate people positively towards their goals. And at the same time, sometimes you do have to fire somebody. You do have to be the guy writing the rejection letter.
You have to be the villain sometimes.
That's
the thing. No, you have to be. You have to be the villain.
And nothing that editor said to me was inaccurate or mean-spirited.
No.
My reaction, which is totally on me, not on him, on
absolutely.
me.
No, absolutely.
I put the imposter syndrome, put it on 100, miles per hour, and didn't write anything for quite a number of years afterwards, which was stupid because I loved to write even as a kid.
But that's, again, you had to go through your own process with that, right? I like, if the individual I know, if they are listening to this, dude, I still wanted you to succeed. I just, I couldn't help you. And I recognize that. I wish I'd done some things a little different at the end of that. Again, I didn't. It's the first time you had to let someone go. And
I was going to say hindsight's always 2020, but then I don't want to mention 2020.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's still the accurate thing to say. Hindsight is 2020 here, but that's the thing, right? The hardest thing you have to learn doing what I do is recognizing when you can't help someone. And that's I learned a very valuable lesson from not the ex-girlfriend I talked about, but from another one I had, is that people at the end of the day do exactly what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And you have to let them. That is the absolute truth. And it kills you sometimes because you know that what they're doing is not in their best interest.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not
until they can see it, they can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing you can do about it. And
you become the enemy if you try and make them see before they're ready to see.
Yeah, well, or you hurt them.
Yeah, exactly. It's better to back off and they might feel you've let them down, but where you just give them space to figure out where they're really at, and hopefully then you can help them.
Well,
bring the table is helpful then.
When I was really young, I made the mistake of showing people when they weren't ready to see. The thing is, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Mm-hmm. And I realize that's something you realize about life in general, is when people are ready for certain things, it'll come out. Sometimes you need that hard kick in the pants, right? But more often than not, the right thing to do, and again, it just took me a long time to figure this out, was, okay, this is what I think. Well, I'm going to do it this way. Okay. Nothing else I can do, right? There's nothing else I can do. It's just like, okay, this is where I think you're going. Good luck. I love you. Best to you. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
right?
Yeah, that's always going to be an awkward conversation. There's no way to not make it, no way to make it unawkward.
Yeah, well, yeah, but but that's again, if you really care about somebody and you're trying to help somebody, that's the only way you can help somebody, right? You don't. One of the hardest things about life is you got to recognize. I said this in another conversation. Jesus used to always ask people, "Do you wish to be healed?" Why would you ask that
So what was
question?
the question?
Do you wish to be healed?
Oh, okay.
Right? Why would you ask that question? People want to be healed, right? Not always. Sometimes people don't want to be helped, and you got to let. I've been in that position. Hell, there's times in my life where it's like I can do this all by myself. Damn it! That doesn't work out for me very well. Some people, that's their mindset, and you got to be like, okay, and that's it. I mean, even if it frustrates you a little bit because you're like, I'm trying to help you, but I'm sure you had your own experiences with that yourself.
Too many to count.
Kids with your kids, I imagine.
Kids, friends. I mean, again, my wife, as you know, is a professional photographer. My oldest daughter actually went to UFC as a dance major. She's a phenomenal dance choreographer and dancer. My son's a professional musician, writes soundtracks for TV and movies and stuff, plus he's in a band. My youngest daughter is a FX makeup artist and videographer, video editor. I am in a very, very artsy-fartsy family. We are all creatives, and therefore we're all flaky as get out, and most of our friends are too. Because creatives are people that are very sensitive, they're people of the spirit, and they're often very wounded and very vulnerable because they always keep putting themselves out there like this. And some people like it, and some people trash it. But because we're performers and we're creatives, we keep putting ourselves out there. And so you end up with a lot of people close to you as family and friends that are wonderful, creative, deep people, but often walking with a bit of a limp. They've been trashed a couple of times. They've been, seriously let down, or in some weird cases, very violently put down. But that's, thankfully, not everyone's story, but it is a few people's story. And so you're constantly, every time I sit down with even my writing group, and people start sharing their stories, what they're writing on, and they're asking and expecting that we will honestly encourage and honestly critique what they've written. I'm always very aware that what they brought is not, it's part of who they are as a creative person, what they've written, but it's also that, I don't know what else the rest of their story is, where they've been bitten by somebody, where they've been stomped on by somebody. Maybe they've been somebody my age. I'm a dad's age to a lot of the other writers in my group. I don't want to be the father figure. I want to be just, Deven, who's a friend with my fellow creatives. But part of the reality is that some of them don't know me that well, might see me and project on me another disapproving father figure. And I might say something totally innocuous, but that's the grid they hear through. And suddenly, so I'm constantly aware that, you can be really careful what you say and how you say it. And even in giving critique, I always, when we go around the circle and people critique each other's writing, I will always start with at least 2 or 3 things that I absolutely, honestly, really liked about what they wrote. And then I might say, if I could offer one suggestion, I never use the word critique or criticism. I'll say, I have one suggestion, maybe if you tried this, or what if you did, maybe just nuance this a bit differently. And again, even as I'm trying to tell them something that they need to do differently, but try and do it in a way that's more of an invitation rather than a confrontation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then they can choose to rise to it. And if they get defensive, then you go back off. You're either they're not ready to hear it, or without knowing what the issue is, you're tapping on something inside them that's tender. Mm-hmm. And so it's just best to back off. And, there'll be other times. And again, the more people get to know me, and this is definitely true in the Kelowna Writers Group. I mean, as they got to know me over the last couple of years of going there, every month and building relationships and talking, critiquing. And then, at that time you were visiting, we all went out for drinks at BNA and just, having fun together. And now I can say things that I would have said anyways, but now they hear them differently. They hear them from their friend Deven, not from another old fart dad figure, or not from some jackass that just has a strong opinion. Like, they know me, they know my heart, and I can speak just as bluntly as I would have before, but it's received differently. And that just takes time to build up that credibility.
Although now I'm just like this now. If I go to a critique book, Great Science says certified jackass. Hi, it's me. I got a suggestion. Just have the certified jackass down and just pointing at myself here. Just me, because I somehow feel that if they're laughing with me or at me or whatever they might like about self-deprecating, it opens the door for people to listen to what I have to say a lot more. It's all about what I have found. What I have found as I've gotten older is there's a really fine line. Like, you don't necessarily want to make it an or else. People fight or else's now. What people have a tendency to like I said, they do project sometimes, but I do find that when it's the trigger, that's the one that it's like, that one's tough sometimes for me, because it's not. And this again, I realize this year is not the year to use this as an example, but I've seen this quite a bit more this year than previous years past. I will say something that's motivational. My whole context on my Facebook page is motivational, and I have this reaction is like, where the hell did you get that? Right? Like,
yeah,
right. And like, I didn't mean it that way, but it hit the right note, and it just would, for whatever reason. And it's been that way all year. So there's a point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be sensitive. Try not to judge. But there's also points like, you know what? I'm sorry, but you push this button too much. Now it's like, I find that one's a really tricky one, because like, if it's once, it's an accident. But if you notice it's becoming a regular thing, you kind of have to put your foot down. It's like, okay, no, you need to chill, whatever that case is.
In the case of a writers group, for example, it takes a good, strong leader of the group to set the parameters. Like, this is a safe place, and we're going to critique, but we're not going to crush. And that needs to be said. I mean, every single meeting, to remind the old timers and to encourage the newcomers that, yeah, you can put yourself out there. We're not going to eat you alive. You might get some pushback on some things you've written, but it's not coming from a desire to crush you and tell you to get out of the group. It's to, let's all push each other to get better at what we do. And again, that's more of a group leadership thing at that point in time.
Oh yeah, no,
you have to have a very, the ethos has to be guarded carefully, and so you have to be a very. This sounds strange. You need a real strong-willed person to set the gentle landscape.
Yes.
And maintain it. And hold that line.
Actually, here's the thing. I've noticed, like, this the strongest people generally are the gentlest people. Genuinely, they are. They're not the people that are in your face and roar, like they roar. No, they're the quiet, like, that's cool, chill, relax. Because when they go, it's like the whole room's like, holy crap! Like again, there's strength and there's strength, right?
I stepped in it this time.
Yeah, I used to again I still would do it even today. I have a buddy. He's about 400 pounds. I used to wrestle him on a semi-regular basis, and I mean, he'd win. I mean, I'm not being a 400-pound guy, but right, I'm not doing that, right? Especially considering the fact that the way he was built, the only options really to do anything offensive was to hurt him. I'm not hurting my friend, number one. Number two, right. That's no, the payback on that. Oh, good God, no. But the thing about it, when we always used to wrestle, I recognized how gentle he was. Like, he was a very strong. He still is. He's one of my best friends. He was a very strong guy, and he's just a very, very strong, kind, gentle dude. That's just who he is.
Mhm.
But I mean, again, you throw me around sometimes. You're like, you okay? Like sometimes, like, oh, you okay? Yeah, good. Like sometimes he puts some thought. You okay? Yeah, but we're good. Like again, friends being friends,
Mhm.
right? But I mean, I recognize with him, and I recognized something a long time ago that I recognize it's never how fierce something feels that shows strength. It's how gentle it is, because gentleness requires a degree of control that
Mhm.
um, I don't know if you've ever lifted weights. It's one thing to lift the weight up, but it's another thing to put it down.
Mhm.
Without
You feel more strain in the last. Yeah.
yeah, no, but it's the truth, right? That's where like strength isn't the ability to lift something; it's the ability to control it, and
Mm.
that's if you're gentle with something, if you're incredibly gentle with something, that shows a degree of strength and control that I think is oftentimes very overlooked, but is truthfully the measurement of strength. I mean, water can be incredibly gentle, but
Mhm.
same token,
But water will wear down a wall. Yeah.
yeah, given enough time,
Mhm.
it's unrelenting, and that's the truth. That's the way of life. So I find that like again, a gentle environment is it's usually the result of a very strong leader. It's when an environment is tense, it actually usually shows weak leadership because that means whoever's in charge is afraid of somebody taking some of their place.
See, and that I was just going to say that is one of the key things of what makes when I define what makes a weak leader, it's being threatened.
Yeah,
If they feel their power is being threatened or their authority is being questioned or if there's any kind of feeling threatened, that's when you see people not showing leadership, they show control.
exactly.
And if you've got several people that are all doing this, all vying to be who's going to be the king of the hill, I'll step back and go, have it out. I'm not fighting this battle with you. I'm not going to referee your battle. I don't have a dog in this race. You guys figure out who you really think's in charge of the group and
Well, no, at, at
get
that
back to me.
at that point, you're like, did you win? Yes. How do you feel?
What did you win?
Yeah. How
And
do you feel?
what did you lose in your winning?
Yes, exactly. I mean that's it, right? That's the nature of again, good strength is gentleness. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true whether it's true whether you're in the water. It's true whether you're making love. It's true. It doesn't matter. Like strength is actually the gentler something is, usually the stronger it actually is. It's amazing how
The more well it's received by the other people or
yeah.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, it's one of those things like a real strength's underappreciated. I think that's just an honest observation. Let's see here. Have you worked on any album like music since you guys have been? I know you haven't been able to tour or anything, or right, but I imagine the creative juices to actually put music together is still there.
Oh, absolutely. I was talking. I mean, our band was able to rehearse for a while, and we keep taking breaks depending on what the latest restrictions are. I mean, when they start to open up a little bit, we'll start rehearsing. We're pretty careful. It's a pretty large studio. We practice in a big oval shape, so we're about 5-6 feet away from each other all the time, and we put those little um, socks over, not an actual literal sock, but the microphone socks, just so we're not spitting past it all. So I mean, we're finding creative ways to be able to rehearse. But I've been challenging the band and say we need to start writing songs together because I mean the creative energy of wanting to play live and to do stuff. I mean, we can start writing stuff singly and then bring it together through the wonders of the internet and computer technology. I could record something and send it to somebody else so they could add their part to it. I mean, Jim Jackson did that with his COVID blues band thing, and he was in Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and I played guitar on it because he already had a bass player, and so we had people from all across Canada and himself in Mexico, and it was a lot of fun. It worked. You can do those kind of things. So there are ways to do it, but you're right. We're itching at the idea of playing, performing. I've been pushing our guys to write more stuff.
Yeah.
because that's where you can really channel some of the creative energy. When it comes to music, I'm the kind of the guy. I'm like the compositor. People come up with these great ideas, and I think of great ways to bring them together. I don't often come up with the great hook on my own, but someone's got a great hook here and a great lyric there, and I'll find a way to kind of at least give a good solid suggestion and move it into a more of a synthesis. So I got to push them to start writing so I can composite stuff. Very different than when I'm writing a book. Obviously, there I am, the creative voice behind everything. So it's a little different when it comes to music for me.
So I actually was going to ask this. I find that different disciplines impact how you actually. Okay, I do obviously audio stuff, but I'm also. I don't know if you saw it. Like I am doing drinking draws now with professional artists.
I saw that. Yes.
Yes.
That's good. I mean, you're not just taking risks; you're doing it in public. I mean, good on you.
Yeah, I know. Hey, life's short, man. Life's short, and that's just the way it is, right? But every discipline I've learned has made me a better storyteller because I understand all our tools are language. I had that thought, and when I had that thought, it was like, okay, I get it now. I get how it's just figuring out the rules to each language. Like movies and comics are about time. Music is. To be fair, I don't know music because that's just again they pay me to stop singing, not necessarily. But
I only sing backup. I don't sing lead.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. But again, there's a I imagine there's a way to tell a story. Like there's a reason songs are constructed the way they're generally constructed in North America. But movies are about time. Games are about interaction. That's where the story in a game comes in. It's all how you interact with the game, right? So, and that's where you tell stories. So what I find now is art is it's shapes. The language of art drawing is, can I do with squares and triangles and circles and all that stuff? Can I do it in a way that's what's the term, that I can tell a story with it? And it's something. So if you are listening to this, yeah, I listened to you I learned from you very much from that little bit of conversation. But yeah, so all these languages are now in my head, right? Now I don't know all the swear words yet, so I can't have real fun yet. But
that's you start playing the wrong key in music. That's the swear words there, yeah.
Yeah, well, or completely butcher an Aerosmith song that you once knew. Maybe that.
I feel like you need a priest or a confessor or something. This is really
I do. I'm sorry. Okay. So but I learned again. Everything has a language to it, and since if there's a language to it, there are rules to it. And once you understand that, I found that. So I imagine, like, obviously, like music. Therefore, I would imagine would structure your novels in a very unique way because you have that way of thinking, and vice versa. The way you structure a novel would probably inform your music. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, there'd be parallels. I'm sure. I haven't actually sat down and really analyzed how much across. I mean, I'm sure there is, because it's all part of the creative process. I mean, when I'm playing, I mean, I'm a bass guitar player, and so some songs you're doing groove, you're doing funk, low end. You just want to have a bit of sass and swagger to it. And there's other songs you're doing, you want to just have that sweetness come through. There's just that line that just makes people want to go, wow. Like there's one song I'm playing for a friend of mine who's doing a Christmas production, so we're putting this thing together. And they're doing a reinterpretation of the first Noel.
Okay.
My role in that song lasts for this many bars, 4 out of the entire song. But it is one of the sweetest jazzy bass lines I've ever had the privilege of playing. And I live for those 4 bars because it's just so sweet. But it's a completely different mood than when I throw it in the funk groove or we're doing something by, like Foo Fighters or Ozzy Osbourne or something where you're just out there just channeling nuclear chaos, But yeah, with writing, I mean, I'm always, I write dystopian fiction. I'm working on some people call them urban fantasies. I've been calling them supernatural thrillers set on another world. I'm trying to write sci-fi and fantasy like a thriller writer, trying to bring that together.
I'm gonna ask this then real quick. Are you a Michael Moorcock fan?
I've read some of his stuff. I mean, probably my favorite authors. I really like a lot of John Connolly's stuff.
Okay.
He's a supernatural thriller writer. I really like Dean Koontz, always one of my favorite writers.
He's hit and miss with me. When he's on, he's one of the best. But when he's off,
I don't love all of his books, but the books that I love, I really love.
No, that's how he is. Like when he's on, he's on. Like there's no one better. But when he's off,
my wife loves all the Odd Thomas stories.
Really?
I thought that I read one of them. I thought it's good. It's interesting. It's different. I mean, I've got his The City and Innocence. Fantastic. Those are like some of my favorite books by Dean Koontz. A bit of it is emotional because remember I told you about that time I sent a book off to a publisher when I was 13 and it didn't go very far. Well, the imprint that was publishing these stories had a story by a guy named Aaron Wolf called Invasion. And I read that and I loved it. And it inspired me to start writing my own stories. And I found out later on that Aaron Wolf was a pseudonym for Dean Koontz. So part of my love of Dean Koontz's writing, I do love, he's a fantastic writer, but I feel like there's a bit of he doesn't know this, but I feel a bit of a connection because of that. It was one of his books early in his career that really inspired me to start writing my own stories. And so, yeah, I mean, I've got a bunch of Stephen King here. I got George R.R. Martin, John Connolly, like I said, Michael Crichton. He's more of a hard science fiction writer. But Patrick Rothfuss, Fonda Lee. I just discovered her recently, and
Fonda's fantastic. I love Fonda.
Loving her stuff. She deserves every award she gets. I just started reading Wool by Hugh Howey.
I've not read him yet, so
I'm about a third of the way in, and I'm telling you, this guy's amazing. He's a great writer. It's a post-apocalyptic story called Wool, which I thought was weird, but I don't understand marketing the way I think I do sometimes because that book has done very well for him. But just the way he's painting the settings and the way he's introducing the characters, it's just good, emotive writing. And I guess that's what I was saying earlier about tying music with writing is when I play bass, I want to emote something that is going to hit people emotionally, whether it's the funk stuff, whether it's the sweet jazzy thing of the first Noel. You want something that's going to connect with people. And as a bass player, sometimes they don't always know exactly what you're doing, but they're feeling it, usually right through the floor if it's loud enough. But you're helping to drive the thing forward. You're helping to set the mood and the emotion. And when I'm writing, my goal is to write scenes where the dialogue is so believable they could picture themselves saying it. And then it hits something inside them and I kind of go, I understand it, and I felt that. Or if they haven't felt that, they can now imagine how it would feel because of the way my characters are speaking and interacting with each other that is bringing those emotions to life. So it's telling a story, but it's as much about what's internally happening with the characters as much as whatever actions they're doing. And maybe that's like what every writer says. But for me, that's kind of how I approach it. And that's also kind of the way that my music's approached. I never thought of those two things before. Thank you, Josh. I've just got more to think on now.
Well, no, it's interesting because so writing wise for the longest time I was in my head, and I realized that I can only get so far when I'm staying in my head. It's when I write my heart with the things I really care about. That's the stuff that people are going to respond to, right? I mean, I love writing about unicorns and about rainbows, but
because we need that kind of creative new release of laughter and fancy.
But if it wasn't balanced with the fact that it was about coming out of your comfort zone, the story wouldn't be worth telling. And yeah, right. Well, it does involve a giant cupcake. It totally does, right? But it's also doing about what do you do with the rest of your life. Now you know that you don't want what everybody else wants. So what's left? What do you want? And that's a hard question for a lot of people. It's like, hey, I get rid of all the constraints. I don't want any of this stuff. So what do you want? right?
Sometimes that's a more terrifying question.
Well, that's why people get caught with like fear of failure. Is the thing about the fear of success? The fear of success is because it's unfamiliar. Familiarity is one of the most dangerous things.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace. I have 8 rules of success. The 8th rule is stay uncomfortable, right? Because familiarity, staying with what you know, in the midst, even if you know it doesn't work, but because you know it, you cling to it. It undoes you every single time. Another friend, one of my oldest friends, actually from Calgary. We have a very interesting relationship. But I told her she had just finished a long relationship with an individual, and she was like, I told her, it's like, you can do whatever you want, but you can't go back to him or your other previous relationship. What'd she do? She went with both. And I was like, right? It's
Well,
like I looked at it.
We go with what's familiar, even if it's not good for us. So we go with it because we know how to make life work dysfunctionally because we're used to that. If we don't know how to do something completely different.
So make it work. I think that just what happens is, like it's what you said. We know this. We know this. Doesn't work, and that's why we're insane. But that's that's another conversation right there. But,
we're getting very metaphysical here, yes.
Yeah. But I have learned in my life, like one of the reasons I've just been doing everything I can think of to do something different and be different is because I am seeking. It's funny when it comes to like culturally speaking. There's almost nothing I want. I don't care about the house. I don't care about the car. Sure, I'd like a wife and kids someday. I'd be perfectly honest. Yeah, I do. That's about the only thing I want. But I don't really care about much else, right? In this world, like I want to see the world. I want to hear people's stories. I want to tell stories. That's it. Like I don't need a lot, which is a conundrum for I'm sure civilizations everywhere, because that means we don't care about cars, money, booze. Nope. It can't be bought. It's pretty hard.
You're about people. You're about people.
Yeah, I'm about people. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all I care about. And the thing about that is, right? You're right. So I'm a hard one because it's like, well, for me, then it's easier for me. I have to get uncomfortable and explore things because, one, I need to discover what else is there to life, because all this familiar crap doesn't do a damn thing for me. Like none of it. So, I mean, I'd like $1 million too, but I actually.
Oh, who wouldn't?
Yeah. Right. But on the flip side, I'm not sure what I do with it, to be perfectly honest with you, because
I've got 3 kids, and I think I'd probably give a lot of it, give them some stuff and put stuff in trust for their kids' college funds. It's just it's a way to help them,
But I mean, like for you, like money is a tool. Here's the thing: like money is a tool to get something, right? And I have found that with money, and specifically, you seek money, you end up with debt, which maybe should tell you what my new money really is. But what I find is that when you seek things like, okay, I sought creative change. I'm doing everything that I can. I don't know what the end result's going to be. I think for me, something's going to magically click, and I'm going to be probably doing this weird ass life nobody else does, which I am totally down for. But that's my choice. I have a choice to embrace those uncomfortable things. I'm going for things, not money, which is just a weird. I think I just learned that going for this money thing leaves a lot of people broke. I'm already poor, so I mean, I'm already there. So why go where everybody else is going? Instead, why not just go and just explore the possibility? Life's long on possibilities is how I look at it. Why not spend my life exploring all the different possibilities of what I can do, and do the things that are worthwhile, and to the rest, fuck it.
Well, I mean, you probably can't tell this by looking on a camera here, but this finger, my forefinger, my left hand, kind of goes like a bit of kind of turns away a little bit. It's kind of weird. I'm a musician. I always have been really involved in music, and I love performing and practicing. I mean, it's great. It's my jam. I love it probably as much as I love writing books. I mean, that's a lot. But I used to work in my mid-20s at a juvenile detention center as a frontline worker, working with kids under the Young Offenders Act. They were to get to our facility, you had to do something that would get an adult 5 years or more, or if you were a flight risk. We were sort of the end of the line. There was no maximum security. It was medium security, but that's as far as you could go. We were the last place you could go to. So we had some kids that were just kind of messed up and mixed up. And we had some kids that were so badly raised by abusive parents that they were already quite dangerous themselves, even in their mid-teens. But one of the guys one day, we're in the gym program and we're playing whatever sport it was. And at the end of the gym class, we have to get them all lined up to walk back to the main facility for whatever the next activity is. One young guy, he's running laps around the gym. He's not being obnoxious. He's just kind of hyper, and he's all hyped up from playing, say, floor hockey. It was that day. And I tried to grab his arm as he went by just to slow him down. And not like to tackle him, but just to kind of, hey, dude, slow down. And he had his sleeves rolled up, just like I have here. And my finger went in the fold, inside the fold of the sleeve. And he just spun away, laughing, playing. He wasn't trying to hurt me, but my finger was caught in his shirt sleeve, and every joint was dislocated. The next day, my entire finger, back to about midway down my hand, was the color of a Concord grape. There wasn't a tiny centimeter that wasn't a dark purple bruise. And I couldn't hold a chord on an acoustic guitar, let alone a bass guitar, for 2 years. And I remember thinking, like, I was about 26, 27 at the time, thinking, like, am I done? Is that it? And I realized at that point in time how much of my identity, who I was wrapped up in being on the stage, in the band. People notice you, people see you because you're in the band. I don't want to be in the audience. I mean, I enjoy going to a concert and enjoying the live show, but I'd much rather be on stage and have people noticing me. And that was like a come to Jesus moment kind of thing where is your identity? If it's in these fingers that can be so easily broken or dislocated, if this can be taken away and you don't know who you are anymore, you need to rethink who you are and what gives you value. So, I mean, I'm writing books. I'm trying to make a living as a writer. What if I don't? What if I can never generate enough income that's the only thing I do? Does my identity come crashing down? If it does, then I've done it wrong. What I write, what I create, what I play. And obviously I'm playing again, and thank God for that, because I love it so much. But I can't have my identity be wrapped up in what I do, in my gifts and talents. They are expressions of who I am. They are not who I am, and they can't be. So, I mean, again, these are the kind of life lessons you pick up along the way. If you tried to explain that to me why your identity shouldn't be in your musicianship, I would have said, yeah, talk to the hand. I want to be on stage. I want it so bad I could taste it. I mean, literally, I'd watch some bands play, and I would watch the guys at the stage going, I'm better than that guy. Why isn't my band doing what he's doing? Because well, he's probably a lot better than me. He's not showcasing it all. He's not showing off. But the point was, I wanted to be on stage. I was putting all my identity in that. And this finger right here for 2 years taught me a very important lesson about, no, it's not who you are. It's one of the ways you express who you are. Mm-hmm. So develop who you are, and your music will be a reflection of that. Your writing will be a reflection of that. Your painting, the art you're starting to do with these artists and stuff. I mean, it comes out of who you are. It can't be who you are.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Anyways, I'll stop preaching.
No, it's good. This is your time, man. We're just going wherever we're going. That's life, man. I mean, so Simon Rose taught me how I interview people now, because I had Simon Rose on the podcast. Not before it was a podcast. I was just doing regular interviews for my blog. Mm-hmm. I had a whole list of questions for Simon, and he just started talking. And we just started talking for about an hour, and I just realized, you know what? Why would I ask a question for this guy? Let's just talk.
Yeah, you ask questions if someone's not talking.
Yeah, that's it. It's the only time I do. Yeah. You understand? Very, very. Or if I'm trying to find a connection, that's when I find it. I don't. I walk away from the questions because no one talks like that.
They're just the crutch to get you that far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Total sense.
So Simon Rose taught me that. He taught me that, if Simon's already who he is, then my job isn't to ask questions so I fit. If it's a format, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
No one wants the format. What people want is a sense of who you are, what you do, why you're doing it, what do you love, and just go. That's who I am. I love, like I said, that's why I love doing what I do. I love hearing people where they come from, where they're going, and what they want to do, because there's very little else in life. Like, again, for me, it's doing what I love with people I love. There's very little else in this life that really, really matters to me, because my own life lessons have taught me there really isn't that much else to life than that. So, you gotta survive, but you can survive on incredibly very little. I've learned that too. But when you get past that point, now what? Now what are you gonna do? Right? So that's what I've learned. And that's my preaching for the thing, ladies and gentlemen. The collection plate will be available after the You may feel free to just download as you see fit, whatever you'd like to give us. Right? I take hundreds. Deven probably takes thousands. It's all good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so you've done your trilogy. You're doing supernatural thrillers right now, Outer Space, right?
I have 2 on the go. I have one that, like I said the other night, has been sitting on the shelf for about 9 months. I've been refusing to look at it. Just I want to come at it with fresh eyes and do a really ruthless revision edit. The one I'm writing right now, I'm probably 4 or 5 chapters from wrapping it up. It's a dedicated pantser. I can't say for sure if it's 4 or 5 chapters or 17. We'll get there. I have a pretty good idea how the book's going to end.
Well, I think even as a pantser, you kind of get to a point where you're like, I think I got this figured out. I think I know I'm near the end of this. Now, it might not be quite 5. Maybe it's 6. Maybe it's 3. I'm in that ballpark. I know I'm in that ballpark.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I tend to write comfortably in the 75 to 80,000 word range, especially on first draft. And usually by the time the book is finished, it comes out around 72 or 73,000. After I end up adding some stuff to round things out and end up cutting and editing, and in the net, it's usually my books are around 72 to 73,000 words by the time they're done. But first drafts are often over 80.
Yeah,
the ones that are on the shelf for a while is over 100,000, because when I started writing it, I was going to try and do a like books like Tor, the book publishing houses like Tor and Bain won't look at anything unless it's at least 100,000 words. So that was a challenge for me. I wanted to write something longer than I'm comfortable doing, but I don't want it to have the sagging middle become really, really sagging. So it was that was a challenge for me to write a longer book and keep it moving and keeping it interesting. And that's probably why I'm looking forward to, when I finish the first draft of this current book, to really go back in there and just beat the crap out of this thing. But now I don't care if it ends up being 85,000 words. They trim off 15,000,
And see, I love the Roger Zelazny length.
Which?
Roger Zelazny.
I'm not familiar with that one. I know who he is, but.
Okay, so his Nine Princes and Amber is about 200 pages. So probably about 50, 60,000 words. I love that sweet spot. I actually love that sweet spot because they're just long enough to be good, but they're short enough to let me want more. I've been, like, for me, I also just reading habits. I love, my favorite format right now to read is the Japanese light novel. Like, I really, really dig the light novel formula. I think it works very, very well. They're short little bits and bites of a story that over time tells a massive story. And I think we're in an interesting era. Like I said, we're dear God, I'm not going to talk about COVID again, hopefully for another, hopefully 2 months. But in this era, it's like the idea of doing episodic stuff, I think, feels more and more appealing, because television isn't really getting made right now outside of like the odd thing here and there. So people are looking for that episodic thing right now. I think honestly that for me, I'm looking at what format I think works best. They're going to be the giant 100,000 things that you can throw that can also work as a brick, right? It's secretly a brick that you can learn from. That's what these are. These are right. You can drop it on and stop a burglar from breaking into your house. I wonder what the hell just got hit with, and it really was a brick. Don't worry.
Especially hardcover.
Yeah, you got hit with a brick. Deal with it. Or or I think the episodic to be continued. It's like, oh man, I want to know what happens next, because I think, yeah, I just think we're in that era. Even before, prior to the pandemic, I was thinking books are getting smaller again. I think overall,
part of that's the ebook thing too.
What?
The whole ebook revolution that's been going on. It's only been here for less than 15 years. Like, it's a fairly recent development that has really just turned everything on its ear.
Well, yeah, like
they tend to be around 50,000 words. That's why NaNoWriMo works so well, because for a lot of people that are writing ebooks, that's the top end.
Yeah, well, I like the Lights Out. I'm trying to release by Christmas is going to probably about 25,000 words. I don't want anything bigger than that. It doesn't need to be bigger than that, right? It really doesn't. I find, because again, I still love big books. Like you said, we talked Fonda Lee earlier. Her books are books.
Her and Patrick Rothfuss are the fattest books on my shelf over here. You know, and they are fat. They're big.
They're big,
and they're continued. They're not standalones. They are a series. You know.
Yeah. No, I of the two, I think I like Fonda a little bit more. Not just because I know her personally, because the next time I get her back on the show, I wanted her. Me and her are probably just going to talk Ninja Turtles for like an hour. I can probably see that. I introduced her to Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. She's like, wait, what? That exists? Showed it to her. It's like, yes, it does. Yes, it
Well, I love whenever I see a writer like a Fonda Lee, she's a perfect example of this. She took mafia, mafioso stories, martial arts, and fantasy. And put it all together, and it works. I love when people can put the cross genre together. That's kind of what I'm aspiring to do too, in my own way. But it's nice to see someone do it and do it so well.
Well, in her case, she reminds me a lot of she's in the Ursula Le Guin and McCaffrey and Mercedes Lackey realm of things. That's what she. Okay. That's where I see her. She's in that class. Really smart. Like her books are really, really, really smart as well. I love the fact that there's also there's a bit of that Hong Kong movie feel in Jade City.
Oh yeah, she's. I mean,
you can feel it.
The whole cross genre thing. She nails a sweet spot on that one.
Yeah. I know John Carpenter approached her into like a Big Trouble in Little China thing with Jade City. I think she'd be all over that.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah,
fantastic. I'd love it. But
that was on the longer book side of things.
Oh, that's totally it's totally on the longer book side of things. Like those are dense, smart books, and I think there's always going to be a place for that in the industry. But I'm looking at. I love what Craig Louis did with Crash Dive and his submarine series. I thought that was a really smart way of doing business. I think Adam Reese tried something very similar with The Wizard Killer, and I honestly think of all of Adam's stuff, that's my favorite of his. The favorite stuff of his. I'd like to see him finish it, but I also know it's just the way things are. Just it is what it is. But I see it kind of like the short books kind of feel like the dime novel I feel is the way to go. Now I could totally be wrong.
But a lot of the books I grew up reading and loving in my early sci-fi years, Andre Norton was one of my favorite authors.
He's awesome.
And a lot of the books, I mean, if you find that her used books, I mean, they're not around, they're probably collector's items now, but you get the book and you pick it up and it'll say like 35 cents. That's the first indication but you flip it upside down and there's another book on the other side, also of hers, and they're printed it back to front upside down. So you literally flip it over and start reading again, left to right. And that's the way, because you got two books for the size of one. Two completely different stories. I think that would be a cool thing to bring back too.
Oh, I think there's a market for it. Like the other thing too, like going back to something I said earlier, the other thing that's something to be considered. And I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface of this. All the mediums are closer now, all of them. And because all the mediums are closer, I think that the possibilities of telling or storytelling becoming more multidimensional. Like I said, every medium has a language to it. Like in Alice in Wonderland series, but I want to do a board game or video game with it because that interaction can tell a part of the story that you can't imagine. And the fact that I'm thinking in those terms now, right? It's like, wait, I can keep telling these stories in every medium, not just, and every time I tell it in a different medium, the story morphs into something different, yet still is very satisfying. We are only starting to play with that now. I haven't really tapped into that yet. But if we ever, I think for most of us creative people that especially can do multiple disciplines, right? That'd be a really cool thing. Like I truly think like soundtrack, for example, a guy like you, soundtracks and science fiction go together very, very well. They just they tend to. So, and the fact that you're capable of doing your own soundtrack on top of your stuff, like it works. Like one of my favorite things in the last few years was Lights did a Skin and Earth album, but she also did a Skin and Earth comic, and both they're amazing together. They work incredibly well together.
Well, you talked to Leland about what he did with the metal band, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I interviewed him for it, but I am aware of what he did with it. He actually read for the podcast. So, no, but like that idea is, I think, music has almost always played small roles in other like movies for sure. Guardians of the Galaxy is probably the most blatant example, but another one I'd use would be Greatest Showman. Greatest Showman.
I got in touch with so many childhood songs for that movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fairy Bomb is awesome where it comes up in the first one. It's just fantastic. Like, okay, that's fun. That's fun. But the idea that everything you do tells a story, right, is phenomenal. And for Guardians of the Galaxy, my favorite one was Guardians 2, Father and Son, the last song, right after Yondu died. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful way. The movie, I think 2 is okay, but the ending, because of all the work in 1 as well, it just was one of those things where it's just like, that was a very powerful way to end 2. And I can't wait for 3 whenever the fuck that comes out.
Although, honestly, I mean, the last Avengers movie, I wanted to slap his character around.
Oh, Quill?
Quill is like, oh, I loved you in these movies, but now you're being a doorknob here. What happened?
Well, because he's interacting.
You're competing with Thor, or trying too hard to compete with Thor.
I thought that was hilarious, actually. I enjoyed that. I think Thor enjoyed it too, right?
Got to play himself being fat. I mean, that must have been like as an actor.
Talking about taking a chance. That was amazing. The fact that he actually went.
I bet the actor loved it.
Oh yeah, for a couple of reasons. He could eat. He could actually eat for the first time in years. Oh my god, yeah, but also it is such a deal. I mean, talk about dealing with failure. Like talk about just dealing with failure. That is I'm not worthy because I failed. No, you did everything you were. Again, this is one of those. Although his failure had such a high level of consequence,
right? Everything was riding on him. A lot of people were looking to him.
Yeah.
He failed a whole pile of people.
Yeah.
How do you bounce back from that?
Well, that's it, right? And although I do love that in that movie, Thanos got killed twice. I thought that was fantastic. Right? Got killed twice.
Yeah.
It's
like watching Trump lose another lawsuit day after day after day. It's like watching him lose over and over again. It's kind of gratifying in a twisted way.
So
full stop right there.
Yeah, I will say this is the only thing I'm going to say about Trump. He is a monster, but I deal with Trump like I deal with Howard Stern. I find that's the best way to deal with him, which is if you turn him off, he can't touch you, right? Howard Stern made more money with the people that hated him than the people that loved him, And I realized they did a study on they did it in private parts. They actually showed the statistical analysis of who listened to Howard Stern the most. The people that loved him listened to him for about 45 minutes. The people that hated him listened to him for close to 2 hours. So
even before we had doom scrolling through Facebook.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So when I look at anytime I saw the people that advertised Trump the most were the people that hated him, right? And so I'm like, on one hand, Trump was a genius because he polarized people to such a degree that the people that hated him spread his message as far away as it could, right? On the other hand, what a fucking way to do it. I mean, I don't think I could be that kind of monster. And
my wife and I are big fans of Stephen Colbert.
Yes.
And we several times during this COVID year had said to each other, he's getting angrier. He's still funny, but it's got a way more of an edge to it. And he himself said just a few weeks ago, I realize I've gotten a lot harsher during the last 4 years, and that's not who I want to be. He said, I want to poke fun at everybody. That's my job. I'm a comedian. I'm supposed to notice things that are a little odd and have a good laugh at someone's expense. That's what we do. He says, but I find I'm getting mean about it, and that's not who I want to be,
So Jon Stewart had a really good commentary about this once. He was interviewed. So the infamous Crossfire interview with Jon Stewart, which is Crossfire's last show, ironically enough, because because John pretty much exposed kind of how bad the show really was. But one of the things I asked him is like, do you look at a candidate like because this was when Bush was in office? Dear God, I missed Bush after Trump. That's unbelievable to say, but that's the truth. He goes, do you look at absurdity? So and he said this, like as a comedian, like for us, our show benefited from the absurdity of it all. And there's the idea of that was really smart because you never let one person embitter you so much when you had that approach. That was Jon Stewart's approach. I'm not sure Colbert had the same approach. And I think that, and hopefully maybe after he went through these 4 years with Trump, maybe he's realized like that people like him polarize for profit. That's always been the way it's been. And like I said, Howard Stern was the originator of that. So me personally, I look at Trump as the Howard Stern version of Ronald Reagan. That's my take on him. So I look at, when I see him like that, I recognize the fact that if I watch him, he wins. If I hate him, he wins. If I love him, he wins. My only real way to deal with something like that is so trying to polarize me one way or the other. It's like two parents. Like, remember when two parents are trying to get you to choose a side? The actual correct answer in that situation is to choose no side. Stay out of it. Let them they can do whatever they want. Stay away. Because if the moment you engage with that person on that level, they've won. Right?
Now they're playing their game by their rules.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the reasons I don't talk politics very much on my boards is that's why. Because I realize that when I talk about who I support, which by the way, politically, I'm pretty much an atheist. That's truth. It's true. I don't have any faith in any particular thinking or system. I just think they're all bought and paid for. And that sounds very cynical, but that's just, I follow money. I don't follow what I hear. I follow where
we look at who's running in our area of town that seems to have at least a smart platform to run on, and we'll vote for that. And we don't care which party it is.
Yeah. which is
it's more. It's very focused on my part of Kelowna.
Yeah.
What's good for our neighborhood? Because I mean, beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, yeah. And here's the thing, right? Most of these guys don't even know your name, so that's how you gotta look at this. Like, we have these platforms. Like, I'm on Twitch. We are talking literally. We are approximately what 1,500, 2,000 kilometers away from each other.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, something like that.
We're not anywhere near each other. Yeah, we're 3 different provinces between us here. So
more than that, 4.
Well, in 3 time zones. I mean, yeah, we are not next door.
There's 5. Yeah, basically. So we got quite a ways away, and the thing is, right. So that's the range, and every politician, every person that's in running for power in some form or another, has the same platform I got or better. So they don't know my name. They don't care. So I call myself an atheist because to me it's like, okay, who's bought you, right? Like, who has paid for your contributions, and what do you stand for? And that's all I care about. And to me, your actions will tell me a lot more than your words will, because even just as someone that has interviewed a couple politicians for this podcast in the past, one of the biggest things I realize when I interview a politician is that they tend to believe their own bullshit to some degree. They have to. That's honestly, no matter who you are, you have to believe in your hype on some level. I totally get that, and I don't knock anybody for that. What I realized about the whole thing was, it's not what they say, it's what they do. And so that's what I look at. That's how I measure everybody. And so one of the reasons I don't talk really politics is a lot of times it's just this idealistic idea of what people think it should be, when the reality of the situation is they're going to do what everybody else has done. The only difference is they'll look at what their interests are. So if I'm interested in a candidate, I look at what they're interested in. That will tell me everything I need to know. And if I don't like either candidate, I'll vote for myself. Because
write my name in on the ballot there. Yeah,
that's it. That's it. That's it. That's my. I don't believe there's a duty for it. I don't necessarily like these. Again, at the end of the day, I have a voice, one voice. By itself, it makes a very tiny, infinitesimal difference when all of us come together and make an opinion that goes one way or the other. But if I make the opinion that I don't think either candidate is worth me to endorse them either way, then that's my right to do it. It's freedom of expression. That's how I see it. And that's as far as it goes. I don't care who you work. You have your reasons for choosing whoever you're choosing. That's true in Canada as much as it's true anywhere else. God bless you. I hope you choose wisely. I hope the person you're choosing benefits you, because Lord knows we all could use some benefit one way or the other at this point.
Yeah, well, our town, like every other town, we have our own unique needs and specific things, and hopefully, what they're going to do, hopefully they'll do what they said they will do. What I look a lot is, Kelowna's not that big. It's a medium-sized city, and my wife's a photographer, and she's photographed some of these people, and some of these candidates and people that are on city council and stuff, and I look at how do they treat her.
Yeah,
because they've hired her for a job, but how do they treat her when she's doing her job? Because she is really good at what she does. That's why they're paying her what they're paying her. And when they treat her badly, I won't vote for them. Because you can't even treat, well, probably because it's with my wife, but hey, the way you treat people, the least of the people, is the way you're going to treat most of the people.
Absolutely.
So I look at those kind of things too, if it's possible. Obviously, I don't know every candidate, but if I've ever run into them somewhere, and I see them in a grocery store, and I'll just, hey, how's it going? And if they're kind of like all uppity, don't want to talk to you, well, you're not a very good politician if you didn't recognize the opportunity to win a voter over.
Well, okay, in the grocery store, or maybe when I'm out to eat, maybe I don't necessarily want to talk to anybody. I can understand that to some
degree. You can be friendly.
Right.
I mean, we know each other, but if someone walked up to you, said, "Hey, you're Josh Pentoresco, I love your show," would you say, "Shut up, kid, I'm shopping"? No, you would.
No,
You would stop for a second and make polite conversation, and then try maybe get back to your shopping as soon as possible. But you wouldn't blow them off.
No.
That's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, so again, I always look at what people do. And it's true actually with everything that it's how I don't, this is the thing. I believe what you tell me until your words or your actions tell me otherwise.
That's probably the smart way to do it.
Yeah. Because I don't have time. I'm too old for cynicism. Right. I'm way too fucking old for cynicism. It doesn't do me any good. I'm going to let you either make me believe in you or have you hang yourself. And I'm really good either way, right? You're gonna do you, I'm going to do me. So I feel that, if you are serious about what you're saying, you will do certain actions to reinforce that opinion.
You're looking for consistency.
Yeah, I always look for that. That's the one thing I look for with people. And if they have it, then I think the world of them. I don't really care what they believe. It's like they're following through, man. That is better than 90% of people out there. Just what? I don't care what kind of monster you are. If you say something and you actually follow through, hey, God, you got some. I'll respect you if nothing else, right? But that's it. I look for a very simple form of consistency. Your words and your actions will line up. If they do not, either I don't understand something, which is possible. I can be kind of slow sometimes. Number two, right? Number two, you're lying to me.
Or you're not who I thought you were.
You're not who I thought you were.
Which is a form of lying, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So ergo, you're not my expectation. Now, if you're not my expectation, is it because I've misunderstood? Because it does happen. Or is it because it is a complete contradiction to what you said? If it's the latter, I don't trust you. End of story. Mm-hmm. That's it. I don't trust you. And now that I have a reason not to trust you, right, then you have no credibility for me. And if you have no credibility for me, yeah.
Why are we having this conversation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's it. It's really simple. I keep it that way. That's the only way I judge people, right? Beyond that, I don't really care. You could be whoever you want to be, and heck, you could tell me you're a fairy princess. Cool. I'll take you for your word. I certainly, you know what? I have my doubts, but on the same token, you know what? It's a bigger world than me. I'm man enough to admit I don't know everything. I'm wise enough to admit that the world is a magical place that I don't fully understand. I do not know what's real, and I'm good with that. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. That all said, if your actions are more indicative to me that you're probably out of touch with reality than, say, a fairy princess, then I'm probably not going to believe you. Right? On the same
and I'm not going to argue with you about it.
No. That's it. That makes it, yeah. I'm actually, like I said, not that hard to understand that way. But I don't look for what you say. I look for what you do. That tells me absolutely everything about you. So God nods. So I think he agrees with my assessment of how I assess people. So
well, I mean, it sounds, I mean, we're not exactly the same person, but that's a lot of the way I would approach people too. I mean, you said something earlier about, you say one thing about yourself, I'll believe you until something you do or say convinces me that you didn't mean that, or that you've changed. Because, people do change sometimes for the better or for the worse. But that's, basically my general approach is I like people and I want to believe the best of people. I've been around long enough to know that some people will tread on that, unfortunately. But I still, in my perfect world, I will always approach a new person I've just met as if we could be good friends. And I will go on that expectation until I find out whether it's reasonable or unreasonable. Okay. And if the person seems to be who I think they are and we can establish a rapport, then great. That's how friendships are begun. That's how they first start out, as the baby steps of becoming really good friends with somebody, and if they don't have any interest or show themselves to be not what you thought they were, you don't get bent out of shape and try and make them or try and point out where they're not being. Just okay, I misread you for better or for worse, and I'll walk away. And if I'm wrong and you're a wonderful person, then if I don't do anything stupid and I walk away, then I can walk back later and we can still maintain a friendship. So I'll just bite my tongue and walk.
I don't always have that ability.
And I've got some friends that I've been friends with since high school. Not a large group, but it's a couple of guys that we've had our ups and downs. We've had times where we haven't spoken to each other much. We don't live in the same province, haven't for years. But whenever we get together again, we don't spend a day and a half catching up, and that we just start making new memories. We just start doing new things and hanging out together. It's like you haven't been apart for a while. And that's kind of you kind of realize that's a friendship that's been tested by the ups and downs, because life is not fair. And good things happen to people that don't deserve them, and bad things happen to people that don't deserve them. And you have to just kind of navigate that. And some of you have a few people, like one or two close friends, that have stuck with you through the ups and the downs. And yeah, sometimes our relationship has had ups and downs too. But after all these years, we're still buddies. And you kind of go, man, in that area with that just one or two friends like that, I'm rich.
Absolutely.
I'm rich.
No. I've moved so many times. I have two friends from high school I'm still talk to on a regular basis. I have other friends from that era, though, I still talk to.
Mm-hmm. But not, thanks to Facebook, I've talked with a lot of people.
Well, no, but it's cool. Like, so a friend of mine, he ended up moving when I was in Calgary. He ended up moving to Calgary for a very short period of time. We got to catch up, and we've been kind of off and on in contact ever since. And that's been a lot of fun to do. I'm still friends with his mom and his dad, and I mean, I still have those friends. I still have a few of those friendships left. But I also know, like, going up and down the road as much as I have, how rare that really is. They're very, like, true love and friendship are the rarest two treasures on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
That are that genuine, keep them, because you will not find that many people in this life that often.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Wow. I miss you, buddy. I really do.
I'm looking forward to when we can all sit down and have pints in person.
Yeah, I do. I think that's gonna be great. I think this is a good spot to end the actual interview or whatever this was for
this rambling, freewheeling, all over the map conversation.
It's fun. It's fun. I really enjoyed it. So
it's sort of like how we meet when we're in person around beers. Same thing happens.
Oh, hey, that's the best part, right? I love genuine stuff, and that's what if my show is nothing else, it's genuine. So, upon that note, you should probably promote your stuff now. So you should do that, and you should promote your stuff now and how people find you, so that way people can find you because you're awesome and that kind of thing. So why don't we do that, and then I'll wrap up, and then we'll talk a little bit after if you want to.
Anyone who's watching, devenkane.com. It's all right there. That gets you to my website. On the website, there will be write-ups and links to the trilogy, the Tracker trilogy. We probably should have talked more about the books, but anyways.
That's okay.
Wow, we're having too much fun, right? This is the trilogy. It starts and it stops.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Since we are on a visual medium here, why don't you show off the pretty covers? You should like they are there.
Okay.
Show them off. No.
First book in the trilogy, Tracker Book 1. Fun fact: that's my son-in-law on the cover. He's the model for the cover. My wife is the photographer, obviously. Dissident, book number 2. Hang on, I'm trying to do everything backwards, like being in the mirror. This is my youngest daughter. She's the FX makeup person that does the stuff like that. That's her husband on the front cover of the other book. We told her. She said, "What's my character's motivation here?" We said, well, your character was abducted by the 1%. basically turned into a programmed semi-mechanical killing machine to do whatever they said. You had a mission that failed, they left you for dead. And now your memories are coming back. That's the face she made, which was perfect for the character. Anyways, last one. This is the only cover I've done so far that is completely made with royalty-free images from Pixabay. There are actually 3 different photos in there that I had a great deal of fun creating to make his character. So he's not related to me in any way, shape, or form except through digital. But that's the 3rd book. It's a trilogy. When I started it, I wanted to do a story about PTSD and recovering from PTSD. People that are very close to me have gone through that. And some of the characters, the main 2 characters, Amos and Aubrey, come at the same issues from different life circumstances, but they're basically coming out of a very broken place and suddenly thrown into a world-changing crisis where they not only have to rise to the occasion of the challenge, they have to rise to their own inner demons. And they do it the books are really a celebration of what community and the power community has to bring healing to people and to enable them to do things they didn't think they could do and probably couldn't do on their own. But in the community that they develop and the connections that are there, they find the strength and the resources to take on the ultimate challenge and prevail.
Awesome. So that they are all available right now, everywhere you can.
They're all available right now. Amazon, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, all that kind of stuff. Again, devenkane.com. There's a link there just called Sci-Fi Stories, and that is the write-up for each of these 3 books. All the links for each book are right there. So no matter what your e-reader might be, if you want print copies, they are available as well too through Amazon. But whatever your preference is, Apple or like EPUB or Mobi, whichever, all the links are on the website there. Take you straight to the product page on the websites, and yeah, enjoy. But I can tell you, one friend of mine wrote a review. And I appreciate that she did this without me asking her to. It's great when you know people that write a review because they like what you read, not because you asked them to. So she said, and I loved her for it, she said, buy all 3 at the same time because you're not going to wait in between once you start reading.
Awesome.
Yes, that's the kind of review you want to hear. So
absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support this, you can subscribe to my Twitch or YouTube channels. Buy my books. They're available now as well. There'll be links in the description below when this episode is finally edited and flashy and all that stuff. I want to thank Deven very much for coming on. Stay inspired. Keep surfing the chaos. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with Marnie Young.
Drive friendly.